What's up, everybody? Let's start off with a democratic dilemma. We live in a world of gray area, but then we kind of teach our kids that there's always a definitive black or white answer to things. And unfortunately, life is much more complex than that. So let's say you're on a boat, a really big boat. You got 100 men on board. You're going down a river, you come to a fork. If you go right, it is certain doom, a 100-foot waterfall. If you go left, you'll be cool. Now, 10 of you know for a fact that that's the way it is. You grew up right there. You know if you go right, it's certain doom. But 90% of the crew has heard it's the other way around. So if you're one of the 10 people that know for a fact the way it is, there's a waterfall if we go right, are you going to care what the other 90% think? Well, no, I wouldn't. And what lengths would you be morally justified to go to in order to save yourselves and the other 90% that's completely deluded? What if there was a small group of ringleaders, say 5 guys, that were leading this opposition to what you know to be true? Would you be justified in imprisoning those 5 men? Well, I would say yes, but the problem is 90% of the people on board believe those 5 men. Would you then be justified in taking matters into your own hands? Which I'm not advocating anybody do for any reason. But the point I'm getting at is, under some circumstances, it is beneficial for the vast majority if you do break the rules. So, it's a slippery slope, a lot of gray area, but you can get to a point where democracy be damned, the right thing needs to be done. You can't rationalize with insanity, and you can't moralize with someone who has no morals. And our infiltrated education system seems to be producing those people en masse. They've been playing the white privilege guilt trip for 3 generations now. But luckily, it's much more watered down on the violin scale than it used to be. Between 1971 and 72, the FBI recorded over 2,500 La Bombas across the United States, an average of nearly 5 per day. Can you imagine how hysterical social media would be if that were the case today? People would be losing their minds. But look, we've been through worse, and it either festers to the point where decent, righteous people say, enough, just nip it in the bud, we don't care, which is what happened in America in the 20s, 30s, and 60s and 70s. Or if you have truly dedicated comrades, then they're able to take their country to the glorious revolution they've dreamed of, but not one of them have thought about, well, what happens next? Which is usually slow, grinding starvation. And I think that's one of the most important things for everybody to understand about this is, yeah, the world's not perfect. And there's all kinds of issues that you can point at and blame others for. That is all these people do is why this and why that. But they never offer any solutions. So let's start off with that part of things, with the Weather Underground and this festering brain rot that pops its head up every couple generations. Okay, you finally done it. Down with the man. You're in charge. Now what?
I brought up the subject of what's going to happen after we take over the government. We become responsible then for administrating, 250 million people. And there was no answers. No one had given any thought to economics. How are you going to clothe and feed these people? The only thing that I could get was that they expected that the Cubans and the North Vietnamese and the Chinese and the Russians would all want to occupy different portions of the United States. They also believed that their immediate responsibility would be to protect against what they called the counter-revolution. And they felt that this counter-revolution could best be guarded against by creating and establishing re-education centers in the Southwest, where we would take all the people who needed to be re-educated into the new way of thinking and teach them how things were going to be. I ask, well, what is going to happen to those people that we can't re-educate? They are die-hard capitalists. And the reply was that they'd have to be eliminated. And when I pursued this further, they estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people in these re-education centers. And when I say eliminate, I mean kill 25 million people. Now, I want you to imagine sitting in a room with 25 people, most of which have graduate degrees from Columbia, and other well-known educational centers, and hear them figuring out the logistics for the elimination of 25 million people. And they were dead serious.
Yeah, so everybody's familiar with the concept of re-education centers, especially out in the Southwest, right? Well, apparently that whole concept comes from brave young college students who want to liberate their fellow countrymen, and hopefully Russia or China or somebody will take over. We're dealing with degenerate sociopaths who don't give the first damn about what's good for their country because they can't stand their country or their own lives, and the most excitement they've ever had is cosplaying revolutionaries in the street. They sit around and tell each other these stories. These are their battle tales.
And one other truck pulled up right there. Chris Hill got out as soon as his feet hit the ground. That's when all the other doors opened up. And everybody that was on this side of the road pulled their long guns out and had us in their scopes.
So look, these guys act all tough. They know that they can go run their mouth and say whatever they want, and the cops are right there. So nobody's going to get harmed in the least little bit. And they think that's what the First Amendment is. Let me tell you, if you went up to any of the founding fathers that penned anything about free speech and talked to them like I see every single day out here on the streets, they would have challenged you to a duel and dropped you there on the spot. Freedom of speech does not mean that you can say whatever kind of rude crap comes to mind and then be protected by the police. What it means is the government can't arrest you for what you've said. And if anything were up to me, I would enact defend your honor laws in all the states, where if someone impugns your honor, you have the right to defend yourself. I mean, I've been around these people and they'll tell you, oh, no offense meant, and then the very next thing they say is going to be the most offensive shit ever. And that's if they're trying to be polite about it. I've met 100 chicks like the one on the left here that pride themselves on how much of a bee they are. And you just can't give these people carte blanche to say whatever they want through a frickin' bullhorn, knowing that there will be zero repercussions for their actions. And then there's these little fellas who the ringleader of their clique is that chick I just showed you every single time. But they act all tough going up against cops with rules of engagement, but they would never go to the grocery store by themselves and pop off at the mouth to anyone there. The fear of an arse whooping has kept society in check for thousands of years because that's the only thing some people are going to respect. And now with the internet, you have people that don't even remember what reality is. They are absolutely lost in this fictitious world.
I just find it incredibly morally unethical to bring another human being, another child, into this late-stage capitalistic shit show that is causing the literal extinction of our species in our lifetime. This child that you want born so badly isn't going to live to see 30, and I need you to hear that. I need you to understand it.
She actually thinks the world is about to end due to climate change. And like I've pointed out 1,000 times over the last year, even if she took her best proof of this, laid it out on the table, and you proved it wrong, and then you did the same thing with the top 20 best proofs that she has, it doesn't matter anymore. She's spent years of her life adding thousands of, quote, proofs to her theory. And once somebody's gone that far down the rabbit hole, there is absolutely no starting over from scratch for them. So you're never going to rationalize with these people and politely explain to them where their thinking is wrong. So they just need to be ignored like the petulant children they are, even if they're 70. The Charlie Kirk incident just proved that there is a scarily high number of people out there that will cheer on things like that. And you know what? I don't care what they think. They've lost their human card. And the worst thing about it is not only are they not branded as traitors, they are encouraged to go out and be teachers. I think one thing we need to do is, just like now all the cops have body cams, there should be teacher cams on every teacher. And if a parent wants to, then they should be able to go through and listen to every single thing that this teacher has taught their children. And our education system from kindergarten all the way up to master's needs to be purged. Anyway, I'm just sick of seeing complete degenerates being treated with more respect than respectful people. It's a one-way street. We respect their right to be a human, but they don't respect ours. And all they do is complain and rant. And they've never once thought about, well, okay, let's have your revolution. Now you're in charge. What now? Oh, what a surprise. No answer. Shut the F up. Anyway, I could probably go on for days about this, but I just wanted to vent a little bit. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Static out.